So welcome to visit our charts. I'm Eva Lykke, and today I am so thrilled and honored to be welcoming a wonderful and extraordinary woman from England. She is an intuitive astrologer, and she is also a spiritual scientist. And her name is Susan Kennard. So warmly welcome, Susan.
Oh, thanks, Eva. Thank you. It's a lovely welcome.
So before we start, I will read some of Susan's biography for all of you, so you can know more about her background. Susan is a spiritual scientist with a wealth of experience and passion for healing and transformation. With a background in psychology and psychotherapy spanning over 25 years, Susan has expanded her expertise by incorporating various energy healing modalities into her practice. This unique blend of knowledge and skills has allowed her to develop her own powerful approach to helping others. Susan's focus lies in assisting individuals, both children and adults, in clearing their trauma on all levels. She is well versed in meta health, emphasizing the interconnectedness of the body and soul. By facilitating the healing journey of the body through the soul, Susan guides her clients toward holistic well-being. Operating internationally through Zoom, Susan is sought after as a therapist, speaker, and presenter. Her specialization in PTSD has led her to work closely with veterans and those who have endured significant trauma. With a clear channel to spirit and the higher realms, Susan's work is known for its speed, directness, and accuracy. As a medium and channel, she collaborates with her galactic guides, incorporating channeling, toning, and light language to facilitate deep healing and heart-field activation, empowering individuals to manifest their desires effortlessly. Susan's accomplishments extend to the realm of writing, as she is the author of Awakening the Light Within Your Heart, a book published by Hay House's Balboa Press Division. Her expertise has garnered media attention, including features on British BBC Two and ITV TV, Sky, and interviews on international seller summits and podcasts. Susan also hosts her own podcast, The Spiritual Awakener, available in many major platforms, and has cultivated a growing following on YouTube. Driven by her unwavering belief in our innate capacity for self-healing and the ability to create a life of abundance, Susan is dedicated to helping individuals reconnect with their inner healer and align with their soul's mission. So, Susan, before we dive into your birth chart, I would like to ask you, how did astrology come into your life in earnest, like something to really be taken seriously? And how did you become an intuitive astrologer?
Thank you. Really good question. As with everything, pretty much in my life, I stumble upon things. But I do remember a very long time ago that before I even knew that I was a medium, before I had my awakening and so on, I was always really connected to the stars and the moon. And I was always really, really interested in astrology. And my nan, my late nan, she passed when she was 97. But right up until the point of her, becoming too old to see, she couldn't see very well, she would have the almanac. You might have heard of it, like, the astrological kind of, chart, and she would have it. She always had it. And so I think I was brought up with very much a nan, and my dad was very much into the galactics and astrology and so on. And so I suppose I had that kind of seeding from a long time ago. And then it wasn't until I had my awakening around about age 27, Saturn return, of course, around about that time, I kind of started to look into it a bit more. But bringing it into my work has only really been the last few years. where I started to hold my intuitive astrology moon events, which you know about very well, and
Mm.
I hold them twice a month. And I decided that I really wanted to bring that to my work because the science of it for me is just so clear that our astrological birth chart, the snapshot of when we were born, is so relative to people's journeys, the Chiron placement, you know, the MC, things like that, which I know you'll talk about. But essentially, all of those things put together with the channeling, with my guides talking to me as well, I believe that really works well. It marries together the science and the spiritual. So bringing it together in my work, I feel has just been invaluable. I absolutely love it.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and perhaps we can show your chart now
Mm.
here on the screen.
So I did train in astrology, so and I did many courses in astrology, and I'm still open to learning all the time and learning from you, Eva, and you know other friends that are astrologers, and
Mm.
but then bringing the intuitive slant on it, I think is just a really cool way to express it. Mm.
Yes, because it seems to be what you're really about. You are very skilled and educated, and this you mix this with your connection to the spirit world.
Yeah,
Yeah, and
yeah,
this is how you also work with astrology.
yes.
And you have this beautiful stellium in your chart, which
Hmm.
is in the astrological terms, it's three or more planets standing very close to each other. And as we can see, you have so many planets in the sign of Libra, the Sun, the Moon, and the Jupiter. And when you talk about your Nan, your grandmother, as I thought about this aspect also, the Jupiter, Sun, Moon, it's
Hmm.
often tells about elder relatives, and
Does it
elders
really?
in the culture. Yeah, it can
Ah,
be. They have many faces, the planets, but the way you describe in your wonderful book also the closeness you had to your grandmother, where you could
mm.
just be and be creative with the things you could play with and things like that. I
Oh,
think
well,
that's a beautiful
that was
expression.
both grandmothers. So that was the grandmother, that was my mum's mum I spoke about in my book. But my
Okay.
dad's mum was the one that was really very much into healing, the
Oh,
angels, guidance, and yeah, astrology.
oh, that's
Yeah,
wonderful.
so both sides. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, and um, people with this stellium in the horoscope, they are often sort of personalities who tend to be surrounded by many people. And you also write in your book that when you were a child, there was a lot of people coming in just to play or to say hello,
Mm.
or have you always been someone who would gather people around you like something natural?
I think definitely. I think now, obviously, I've got my community, but actually, in a physical space now, I actually, at this stage in my life, I prefer to spend time with just, you know, special friends or special people. I don't really spend a huge amount of time in massive, great groups, unless I'm, you know, teaching or speaking but I much prefer kind of smaller groups now. But definitely, yeah, in my younger days and lots of parties, and I still like to have a party at home, or I still like to have a lot of children around. You know, my kids are teenagers, so I'm really my door is open.
Mm,
So from that perspective, I love it. But I also really love my own space as well, my own peace and time.
yes.
Yeah,
And how did this develop into your creating your soul family?
my soul family. Yeah,
Yeah.
well, the Souls Mission membership. I think it was born really because I knew that I knew people needed a hand to hold as they went towards their mission. And I never had that. So I stumbled upon the way of creating my spiritual journey by learning the hard way. And what I really felt, and especially what the guides were kind of assisting me with, was saying that, you know, actually I'm really good at helping people align to why they're here. And I decided to just kind of create a place, a special healing space, a safe space where people could connect together So like-minded souls connect together. And then for me to take everyone on that healing journey to really live why they're here. And so incorporating the astrology events, the healing retreats, and our private calls, and lots of opportunities to work with me, I created that soul family. And I call it a soul family because, as you know, Eva, as being part of the soul family, you know
Yeah.
that you know where it's taken you on your journey. You know that personally, but I watch people every day, and I'm so proud of everybody in that soul family because it's literally like we are a family. And there's no hierarchy, and I think that I really love as well, is that what I hope I bring to it is that we are all equal and we're all here to be of service from a place of joy and happiness in what we're meant to be doing in the world. So yeah, that's kind of a long answer to a short question, but
Oh,
that's
but
why I created it.
yeah, but I really wanted to talk to you about this because, as yours, I have really loved becoming a part of the soul family and feeling this sort of freedom, because it's you sort of feel that you know each other on some level,
Yeah, yeah,
but you are not tied by the patterns that you have from your maybe your upbringing. So there's a kind of freedom.
you can be, can't you, who you want to be in the soul family.
Yes,
You,
yes, and I think that a lot of people actually experience this in our times, that we sort of meet people in another way, knowing that some of them may be soul mates or soul friends.
I think that's
That
true.
is a good contribution to the other families we are with.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then another part of this stellium can be about expertise. We have often seen great experts have stelliums in the horoscopes. And you have many different educations also. You are a psychologist, psychotherapist, neuropsychologist, trauma specialist, naturopath.
You name it.
You call yourself the spiritual scientist. How,
Yeah.
can you tell us a bit, how do you combine science and spirituality?
Yeah, I mean, I really feel that what people find really helpful is, and they tell me this when they work with me, is that they find it really helpful to understand the science of who we are. So at cellular level, at physical body, in the sense of why is our body showing this message? Why am I experiencing this in my body? And then understanding the science of it and why our body creates these particular messages at particular times, then we can understand on the other side of what our soul is trying to convey to us. So the science is really helpful because quite often, if we know, I mean, I'm very much evidence based. I love evidence of everything, which is why I love astrology, because we
Mm.
can clearly map things, which is really great. But with the body, especially, and the mind, if we've got a sense of an understanding, then we've got somewhere to go with it. But balancing it with obviously the channeling and being able to see, clairvoyantly and so on, and listening to my guides, of course, chatting away all the time, um, it really helps because we can pinpoint and fast track situations as opposed to perhaps in the old days of when I used to work in child protection, we perhaps would spend a long time talking about situations, whereas with looking at some of that, but also really looking at the spiritual side of laser work, we're really lasering because we're being given that information and our soul is trying to talk to us. I think the science and the spiritual is the way forward for people. If
Yeah,
you just have the spiritual, it works really well for some people, but having both, I think, really opens the door to many in this time of ascension, this time of great awakening. I think the almost like a credibility, not in an ego sense, but a credibility in the sense of someone perhaps being able to hold a space in a safe way for people. I know definitely the training of being a psychologist and a psychotherapist has, is invaluable for that, and understanding trauma positions, and how it affects people in their life from a science perspective, cortisol, adrenaline, why we choose particular professions, to raise our cortisol and adrenaline. Why do we choose relationships? Because they mirror our cortisol and adrenaline when we're a baby or a child, that kind of thing. So as we can look at that scientifically, we can also balance it by bringing in the healing energies from the guides and activating our own inner healer within. So I think it's a nice marriage between the two.
Yeah. Yes, because our culture is very science based. Also, we grow up with a lot of credibility around science. So this is something we really trust. I mean, so maybe it can help us also.
And we shouldn't really always trust it. And I think what science is a question. And I think maybe that's gone off track a little bit recently, but it is a question. When we have a hypothesis as a scientist, we're basically saying, I have a feeling this is what's going to happen, right?
Yeah,
But we
that's
don't
right.
know.
That's
So
right.
that's what hypothesis is. And so a
Exactly.
scientist doesn't know. They just they look to see a trend, and they look to see, which then creates, a truth. But
Mm.
the science has credibility, but I think it's really important to question it all of the time and not just agree
Yeah.
with a scientist. Yeah.
Yeah. And here's where our intuition comes in also.
Yes. Yeah.
Our inner learning.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I love
Wow.
it when
Thank
people
you.
question. I think it's
Yeah.
important. Someone questions me about something to do with trauma, or something to do with the brain, or something to do with the healing of the body. I'm like,
Mm.
yeah, great, question it, because it's really important to do that so that you feel empowered to make the right choices for yourself instead of being told what to do.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Exactly. And this brings us to the next question, because I also, when I looked at your stellium, I was associated to your powerful healing modality for the inner child, the emotional wall process, because that in this healing modality there is an angel with a bag of beautiful stars for the
Yes.
child, and I think your stellium could also be seen as this bag of beautiful stars,
Oh,
and
that's so
healing
cute.
remedies.
Mm,
Um, the moon could be the cloak of protection. The sun is the divine child. Jupiter is the crown of sovereignty.
yeah.
And I really love this, the crown of sovereignty. We talked a little about your Jupiter conjunct the sun and moon, because
Mhm.
I associate this with Jupiter also, sovereignty. And I would like to ask you, what difference in your experience could it make for a child, whether it's an inner child or an outer child, to be given a crown of sovereignty?
Well, obviously, in that process and many other processes, which are found in my book, as well as we do it a lot in our soul family, don't we? This work. Um,
Absolutely.
when we're thinking about the crown of sovereignty, from my perspective, that is remembering who you are. So, if you think of us going through, we have these kind of pillars in our life, pillars of light, and one is remembering who we are, the other is remembering we're not on our own, and then the other one is remembering why we're here. So three of these beautiful pillars, I call them the pillars of infinite abundance, actually, but they are pillars of light, essentially. And I believe the crown of sovereignty part is remembering who we are, which is a sovereign being of light having a human experience.
Mm,
Mm.
beautiful. Yeah, I have also felt in my personal work with your process that the self-compassion part is very, very healing for the inner child.
Yeah.
And I associate this with your Neptune in the 12th house in the sign of Scorpio,
Ah,
healing
right.
and purification on a very deep emotional level.
It's not
Um,
quite anoretic, is it? It's not quite anoretic degree, but it's almost.
Well, okay, but that's where you change the carbon to diamond. You know, the last degree of the signs, they can be understood in that way. And Neptune is in a harmonious aspect to your Chiron in the 5th house, which I also connect with healing of children. And it's also in a trine to Pluto, Venus, and Mercury. And I see this also as an indication of your ability to channel sound, light language, and to heal with your soothing voice, because you do have a very, very soothing voice. So
thank you.
yeah,
I hadn't actually looked at that. And also my children's book, Guardian
yeah.
Winds, which will be
Oh
out
yes, of
here.
course.
That makes sense as well, because there's the Neptune piece to do with the spiritual connection, and then the Chiron, obviously the healing inner child wounds, but also but also the kind of galactic side of it. Yeah, that's really interesting. Yeah.
Oh yes, that's wonderful, because 12th house is also about collective healing, I think. So it's wonderful that you have written a book for children. Okay. I would like to talk about your spiritual awakening now, because you have talked a little about it. You had it when you were moving into your first Saturn return in your late 20s. And this is, for the viewers, a Saturn return is when the planet Saturn has gone one round in the horoscope. It happens for all of us between the age of 29 to about 30, 31. And this is a very, very decisive time for most people, almost for everyone. And I also believe this is a time where we can really move into our soul purpose in a more conscious way than before we are 30 years. But how did this all begin for you and lead you to becoming a spiritual medium and the channel?
I wish I knew. I mean, if you're listening to this and you're not yet late 20s, then this is great that you found this, because if I'd have known, well, maybe not, but well, 27. So my spiritual awakening was Martin, and I write about him in my book in the first part. But Martin was a previous boyfriend, and we just ended up being friends, which was great. And he moved back to New Zealand, which is where he was from, and he had a girlfriend, and he used to kind of occasionally phone me or send postcards. In those days, we used to do things like that. And I had a phone call from his girlfriend after Christmas one year, and she said to me, I found your number on a Christmas card, and I know that Martin always spoke about you in England, and he always wanted me to go to England, and he loved his time in England, and I just needed to tell you that he took his life. And so that was obviously a big shock at that time. And I just started my psychotherapy, kind of just on my journey of my psychotherapy training and so on. So it was kind of a really pivotal time in my life. But I didn't actually think too much of that afterwards, because New Zealand was a long way away. I couldn't get to a funeral. It was the other side of the world. It just wasn't possible. I just started a new job as well. And 3 months after he took his life, I had this very scary visitation, and I was asleep, and it felt like somebody was in the room with me, and there was a dog as well, and it was like I was half asleep, but I was awake, but I was asleep, and I couldn't move, so I was really in sleep, but I felt like I was awake. And I had this sense that there was someone in the room. Now, at this point, I didn't know it was him, with his dog that had passed 6 months earlier, actually. I didn't know it was him. And I felt like someone was kind of touching my shoulder, trying to wake me up, which you could imagine, like you're on your own in a flat in London, feel really like vulnerable. So that all happened. It was very scary. And then it wasn't until a bit later on that I just couldn't sleep. I told all my friends about it. I said, I don't know what that was. I don't know what happened. Someone got me a reading, and I never really had one before, and it was like something new. And this person didn't know anything about me, and they sat with me in the days when you actually went to see a medium physically, and sat with me and literally told me everything about Martin, about our holidays, about things we got up to that no one else would know. And I was obviously, amazed by this. And she said, "Oh, also, he's really sorry that he scared you." And I'm like, and then the penny dropped, and I was like, "Oh my God." And she said that he didn't mean to scare you. He was just letting you know that he was here and that he was all right, and so on. I'm like, and then I said to her, "This is what happened." And then right at the end of the reading, she took my hand. Bearing in mind, I was a psychologist, I was doing psychotherapy, like real science girl. And she looked at me and she went, "And you're walking the path of a master psychic." And I just went, "Yeah." I just kind of never took any notice of it. And so I just went away thinking, wow, this is like really interesting. And then things started happening. Like I started to know stuff, and I started to know who was coming to the door. I knew who was on the phone. Things started to open up, led me on a journey of transcendental meditation. I started to need to quieten my mind down, and I found transcendental meditation. Obviously, the guides pointed me there, and then the doors opened, and that was it. My journey of my spiritual awakening happened, and I tried to disprove it. So I went to the College of Psychic Studies, I went to loads of courses, and eventually I couldn't disprove it. I actually started to see spirit. I tried not to, but I saw them. I could see into the body. My tutors were saying to me, "You're a natural psychic." I'm like, "Really? Like, I want to be a psychologist. And they're like, "No, you are a natural psychic." And I ended up having a double life. I worked on the platforms in London as a spiritual medium, giving addresses, giving evidence of survival.
Yeah.
Totally was not something I thought I'd do.
Mm.
And I was working in child protection as a trauma specialist with drugs, alcohol, that kind of thing.
Mm.
So that was my spiritual awakening, and that was all those years ago, and I'm 54 now, and that was a long time ago, and it's just kind of evolved from there. But that was my first spiritual awakening.
Yeah. So the scientist in you were a skeptic in the beginning,
Totally.
and wanted to disprove what you actually was experiencing.
Totally. I wanted to
Yeah.
know that there was another explanation for what I was experiencing. And you know what I'm like, Eva? I'm still like that. Of course, I trust spirit now, and I have
Mm.
done for many years. But anything new I bring out, I test it with you guys, don't I?
Yeah.
Like I
Yes.
test it. I'm like, just let me know what you experienced, especially with the galactic chambers, like
Mm.
what did you experience from it before I even put it out to the public. So
Yeah.
I'm still very much like that. Mm,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yes. You're very grounded in this way.
very
But
grounded.
how did you get through the fear you felt when you had this experience with him visiting you in the night?
I can't even remember. I think just having that experience of knowing that there was so much more than we could ever imagine. And that I wasn't making it up. Like it definitely happened that he was trying to let me know.
Mm.
Then I contacted his girlfriend and spoke to her and his parents, who I knew, because I'd traveled to New Zealand several times, to see them, and we'd stayed with them. So I
Yeah.
said, like, this is what happened. So we
Mm.
had open dialogue about it. And so I think that kind of helped. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I also associated this experience with the Venus-Pluto conjunction. You have a love that transcends death, the physical death, actually.
Wow.
Um, but
Really?
yeah, I think it
Wow.
can work in this way for some people.
I had another boyfriend. I'm not praying mantis or anything, but had another boyfriend who actually, um, you know, actually died, not while I was with him, but later on, you know, and we still remained in contact.
Mhm.
And he drank himself to death, basically. So he died of liver failure.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's
Wow.
two boyfriends.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Um, yeah. So it's
Mm.
quite interesting how that was part of my soul's journey to experience. I think Martin was definitely a big loss. You know, I think I've done a lot of
Mm.
work on that. You know,
Yeah.
and the questions as well. So if you're listening to this and you've had somebody who took their life, you know, the questions that I had definitely were: is there something I could have said? Is there something that I could have done? Is there, you know? But of course, we know that the soul's journey is chosen. You know, we choose that soul's journey, and of course there was nothing that I would have said or done would have made any difference to him,
Mm.
because that's what he chose. But I named my son after him,
Yeah, that's so
you
beautiful.
know, to keep
Yeah.
his name alive, basically. Yeah.
And wasn't it also wonderful to know that he was fine where he was? I mean, the message
Yeah.
he actually came with to you.
Oh, absolutely. But also that he was always such a great champion of me. Like, he would be like, when I first started doing my psychology degree, he was like, you're going to do so well. You're going to be a star. You're going to be this. I know you're going to do really well at this. And he was
Mm.
always like that. And he's still like that when he comes through. You know, he's
Yeah.
still like that, like very much like, you know, shine out in the world. And he was really, you know, pivotal with that.
Yeah. And this is another side of the Venus Pluto, a transforming love, we could also say, I
Wow,
believe.
gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then that's another part of your book that has touched me very deeply, and it is where you talk about becoming a single mom, really taking you into your soul purpose.
Ah,
I would,
absolutely. Such
wow,
a spiritual
this
awakening.
is this
Yeah.
is so empowering. I think. Would you like to tell our viewers how this
Yeah.
process was for you?
So my daughter is 16 now, just 16, late last year, and she was 2 years old, and my son was 11 months old. And at that time, I made a decision to become a single parent and bring them up myself from that perspective. And the reason being is that I'd chosen a partner. Obviously, it was meant to be, you know, on my karmic soul journey. But I'd chosen a partner that was unable to really be someone that was a really good role model for my children, but also was not able to really be a partner to me. Okay, and I'm not gonna make him wrong in this interview to talk about it, because obviously we choose, you know, our depending on our worth at that time and depending on how we value ourselves, we choose relationships that reflect that. And I know that 100%. But for some reason, we got into a whirlwind relationship, and I'm sure many people have done that, where it was just like within 3 weeks he'd asked me to marry him. Within 3 months, I was pregnant with Sarah. You know, it was like this, and we only ended up being together 4.5 years, not very long at all. And
Mm.
so it was one of those kind of real, you know, whirlwind, intense relationships. And I'm really grateful for it because I have two beautiful children. And the massive gratitude, I think, is that if he hadn't have pushed me to the point of realizing that I was worth so much more, I probably would have stayed with him. And so
Wow.
because it was so awful and so I choose my words really carefully, but a very negative relationship to be in on an emotional level, I I'm kind of glad that it was like that, because if it had been semi like that, I probably wouldn't have made the choices that I did to completely reinvent my whole life with two babies to look after. So what I say to people is, if I can do it, I had no idea how I was going to pay the mortgage. I had no idea how I was going to do everything. but I knew I had spirit behind me, and I knew that it was the right thing to do, and I knew that these children needed a safe environment to be in, and I knew that that's what I had to do for them. And so, you know, that was my
And
second
this,
spiritual awakening.
yeah, this was what gave you the power to really realize yourself, as well as I say. And I think I also could see that when you stepped into your soul mission, you were around 39, 41. Is that true?
Yeah, would it have been? Yeah, probably would have been around that time. Yeah. If you think about it, what was I, 37, 38? Yeah, around about that time I had Sarah. So yeah, it would have been about 40, 41 that
Yeah,
I'd done
because this
half
is,
my life was on my mission on a different level. And then stepping out of the spiritual closet was probably around then. Yeah.
yeah,
Mm.
because this is another very pivotal age for all of us when we have the Uranus opposition, like that we all have in this age between 39, 41, 42, and a lot of research has shown that this is the time where people really, really, really step into their creative powers. And a person like, Carl Jung, he had this great journey into the unconscious where he discovered the archetypes when he had that age. And he said many years later that what came up in his consciousness in those years were enough for the rest of his life to work with. So he wrote the Red Book, which was published only a few years ago, because it was so new and challenging for his colleagues, his psychiatrist colleagues, that he didn't want to publish it while he was alive. But it's a powerful period for people with the Uranus opposition. And the psychology books also often call it the midlife crisis. But it's more than a crisis, because as your story shows, it's a time when you can really, really
It was a crisis.
reach your inner power. Yeah.
It was a crisis, definitely. I mean, I'd say that, yeah, it definitely was. But I think what really helps is to know that you're not doing it on your own. In the sense of I saw my nan in spirit, sitting there when I was sitting there, floods of tears, pregnant with my son, and I knew that there was a real reason why I was going through what I was going through. And I just knew that at one point, one day, it would be the day to finish that and just move on. And I think throughout that time, I kept getting these little nudges, from spirit. And then the day came, which wasn't planned, but the day came, and it was just like, this is today. Today is the day. And that's when I made that decision. And it was the right decision. And those are the kind of things that when you know that your soul is driving you, there's no kind of going back. It's really weird how when your soul just says, this is exactly what you need to do, exactly what you need to do, but you don't necessarily know it, like someone's having a chat with you and saying, this is what you need to do. You just seem to have that drive, and that drive to make decisions, and the words just come out of your mouth. So that's when you know you're guided, right? That must have been the Uranus,
Yeah.
the kind of
Yeah.
shock surprises. Yeah.
Exactly. Yes, because it's also the energy that we sometimes say we are cracked open. Our heart is cracked open by an experience, and it can be very surprising if we have sort of avoided Uranus energy, because it can be disturbing also for the status quo and our habits and things like that.
Yeah.
But you also had the support from your grandmother from the other side. That's
Yeah, and
beautiful.
also luckily, luckily my family as well, my earth
Yeah.
family, luckily I had quite a lot of support there, and friends as well. So yeah.
Yeah. But I also see you as someone with a very, very strong mother archetype within you. And the day you sent me your data, I was calculating your chart, and then I saw that we called it the dwarf planet Ceres, you know, the Greek, the Roman goddess, she was called Demeter in the Greek mythology. That transit Pluto was exactly on your Ceres on that day. And that day you put up a video on YouTube about some of your children's friends who had been abandoned by their parents.
Oh my goodness.
And you had invited some of them to stay in your home.
Yeah.
And I thought, wow, this was really, really appropriate for this aspect. Pluto conjunct your Ceres because it's in the last degrees of Capricorn in your birth chart.
Yeah.
And not only that, because today the transit Ceres is exactly on your ascendant. So I thought, wow, there may be very, very important messages from Ceres today, because she's on your ascendant today as we are talking.
Wow.
So when I asked my own intuition, what could that be about? The answer was that it might be about your galactic healing chambers with children. Would you like to talk a little about them?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. You know, obviously my children are in them, but hundreds and hundreds, maybe even thousands of children are in my children's chamber and all over the world. And it was given to me, I mean, the galactic crystal healing chambers were given to me a few years ago. They were channeled to me. And the children's one, I was told, and people can read about it on my website, you know, the details of it. But essentially, I was told that the children's galactic crystal healing chamber was a protection for the children so that they can continue to remember who they are. And the children don't really come in with karma now, but what they are coming in with is still growing in the womb and the mother's stuff and the father's stuff, right? But they don't really come in with karma. Not most children don't now. They're coming in such a pure form, but they're so sensitive that it was really important for them to be in this galactic crystal healing chamber. And what it does is protects them, but it also allows them to remember that they have guidance around them, but also remember that they're here for a really important reason. And many people have said, and they often email me and tell me how their kids are doing, and many people have said that they've noticed just a calmness with their children, or they've noticed just a creative flow coming in, like they might start drawing, or they might start, you know, speaking, or they might start to you know, find something that really excites them. It might be working with animals, it might be whatever it might be. And they've noticed that they just seem very different whilst in the galactic crystal healing chamber. Yeah.
Wow, so beautiful.
It's lovely.
And people can go to your website and find a healing chamber for their child. And also you have healing chambers for many other things as well.
Pets, people.
Yeah.
There's many there. Yeah, there's many there.
Yeah.
Have a little
So
look.
people can go and see for themselves there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then we move on to something a little different. You often emphasize that you do not claim to cure or heal anyone, that you believe we can heal ourselves. And this is very empowering, I believe.
Yeah.
And in your book, you write, when we are held energetically captive by the past, our potential is severely limited, and we are often prevented from living in freedom, which is our sovereign birthright. So how can we begin to heal ourselves if this is a completely new idea to us?
Sure. Yeah. But I think the key thing to remember first is you're a soul having a human experience. So the vehicle that carries your soul is your body at this time, right? So what happens is that your soul is talking to you at all times, and you made a deal that when you came to this earth that you would remember, finally at some point remember who you were. You would have your body let you know when you were out of alignment with unconditional love or your mission, which are one and both the same. Okay, so if there was something where you're out of alignment with loving yourself, giving your power away, whatever it might be, you would know in your body, and you would also know if you were out of alignment with what your soul chose to do. Okay. And it also shows up in your bank balance, in your friendships, in your relationships, and so on, as we know, right? So our internal mirror is a reflection of our external mirror. That's just a very speedy way of saying it. So if we're thinking about our own healing journey, then one of my favorite subjects, of course, is have a look at what is showing up. So let's say, for example, there is a physical dis-ease showing up. So the first thing to do is to actually really acknowledge your clever body for showing you that message. And I think that is one of the, you spoke about, Eva, the compassion work that we do, and to actually really acknowledge that your body is not doing something against you. It is always trying to help you. Now, that doesn't always feel that way when you've got painful shoulders, I just say, you know, a feeling of restriction in your throat, headaches, whatever it might be, arthritis, whatever it might be. It doesn't always feel that your body is helping you, but actually it is really trying to help you. And the question is, do we listen to it or do we suppress it? And so what we tend to do is we tend to go throughout our life suppressing this emotion, because it is dis-ease in the mind, dis-ease in the body. So as we suppress this emotion, imagine we're compressing something, we're actually making it stronger in a sense, aren't we? We're kind of compressing it together, making it harder and stronger. So the message actually gets louder. So what we can do is then, manifest within our bodies a deeper picture. Okay. And I will just say a disclaimer. I'm not a doctor, and I would never claim to heal or cure anyone. And actually, to be honest, no one can anyway, even if you are a doctor. But it's really important to say that, because I would never claim to say I am your healer. And I think it's really important for people to know that, because if I were to say that, I completely take your power away. But what I can help you do is to access what is the message that your body or your life is trying to show you. That's something I'm really good at. Okay, so I'm really good at channeling that. I'm really good at that. But you, whoever you are, who's ready to heal, you are your actual healer within. So the modalities that you might find in this world, and many people offer them, whether it's astrology, whether it's inner child work, whatever it is, you will be guided to the person that is the facilitator or facilitators to allow you to access that healing point. Okay. So never feel that you are on your own with it, because I have a YouTube channel, which is a free resource, which is just my name, Susan Kennard. So anyone can go on there. Many people have YouTube channels. There's so much free advice and healing out there, free meditations. You literally can get anything you need. So I would say, put your hands on your heart, acknowledge what's happening in your life. You could say something like, I'm so sorry that you're feeling so alone with this, whatever it might be. And then ask your guides to point you in the right direction. Ask them, show me who can help me. Okay. Because we all need facilitators. We all need channels to help us. And we really are not doing this on our own. But if you have got, if there is something showing up for you and you're listening to this and you feel that you're stuck with it, I promise you're not stuck with it. You just feel that you don't understand it. And once you understand it, it opens a whole doorway for you to shift something in your life, change a relationship, change the job that you're in, or, there's always something that your soul is trying to guide you towards.
Wow. Thank you. That's so beautiful. Because my next question was, but you have already answered that our ability to heal ourselves does not mean that we do not need help from others. I mean,
yeah, I think it's true.
But when you change your perception also, and really start to live with your body as a friend, and that your body is giving you messages instead of giving you pain. I mean, this is a great beginning of a self-healing process, I believe.
Yeah, and I think so. And I think we are obviously on this awakening journey of this ascension. And I think that what's happening is people are starting to see that perhaps what they put a plaster on before, with whatever they choose to put a plaster on with, is not working anymore. So even that plaster that used to work, that thing that they put across it that used to work, or the medication they took used to work, is no longer working. And I think the reason why it's no longer working is because we are transforming as an incredible human, and we're starting to need different things. And what we need is to remember who we are, and the power that we have within us to heal. Yeah.
This is where this inner healer becomes alive.
Yeah.
Wow. The sign of Libra is also very much about relationships, I believe. So I would consider you kind of an expert on that too. So
I'm an expert, let's say, on helping other people.
So I know it's a big question, Susan, but how do we learn to become safe and free in our close relationship? To feel safe and free.
Close relationships in the sense of any close relationships.
Any close relationship, I would say, yeah.
Well, from my perspective, the relationship with self is the first relationship to be free with. And then that relationship with self allows you to attract those into your experience that are a support or a reflection or don't trigger you. But if it's your family, for example, and you are receiving triggers, which many of us do, then that is your work. Okay. And when you start to heal, we all know, right, Eva? When you start to heal those triggers, they are such a beautiful experience for you to heal that part of you, usually childhood, that actually is experiencing that trigger as a now. That's what happened as a child. I felt this. You made me feel this way. I'm angry. I feel abandoned. I'm rejected. Yeah. So we often go into that child when we're seeing a trigger in a relationship. That I think is the best way to say, like, the blame game is boring and it's old. We can't blame people now. There's no point in blaming someone. We've got to take responsibility for what we attract into our experience, whether it's a romantic relationship, whether it is a friendship that's broken down, whether it is a work relationship that's broken down. Then we've got to look at that and go, right, what emotion am I holding that actually I feel in this situation? Because that is your key to healing that.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And also, if you live in a marriage, let's say you've been together for many years, and one of the partners start awakening, and feels this longing that the other part would also awaken. Could you give some advice to how do we support each other into living our mission, whether it's wanting to awaken or not? Do you have any good advice to us in this way?
I can only say what I feel about it. From the perspective of looking at it in the work that I do with people around relationships, is that actually the fact that we want that other person to be doing something that we're doing is actually interfering with their soul's journey. So we in our ego want that person to heal, be better, do something better, make different choices. That is us in our ego And the reason why we're in our ego is in our fear. Now, the other side of it, that if we can see our part, let's say for example it's a partnership, because that's what you spoke about. So say it's a husband, right? And you are off on your spiritual journey, you're really enjoying it, you're really benefiting from it, you're really feeling, great, and you can see your husband is still in the 3D, because I hear this a lot, right? So still in the 3D. If you are wanting that relationship to still be, you have to meet that person where they are with compassion. Very hard to do, but it's what you need to do. And there is a really incredible process called the cutting of the ties for forgiveness, is in my book.
Yeah.
And oh my goodness, when you do that process, and I invite people to do that process before they make any decisions of finishing relationships, when you do that process, you're clearing away the past lives, the ties to other relationships, the karmic ties, everything like that, the vows and oaths, all of that stuff, which you'll see. And so it gives you an opportunity to either continue on that road without that in the background running in your fields, your energetic field, or you amicably end that contract. Now, people say to me, well, I don't want to end it. I'm like, well, that's fine. If you don't want to end it, then what's going to happen is you're going to have a clean space to be able to grow in that relationship. And what you might notice is that that person as well will grow with you, because you were meant to just clear away that old karmic debt, those old lifetimes of being betrayed or burnt at a stake, or imprisoned, or whatever it might be, and religious orders are a big thing to do with marriages as well. So to release all of those and then look at your relationship and go, oh my goodness, I feel completely different, which people do. And whether it's meant to be or not, it will give a clean space. So that's a really good thing to talk about when you're looking at relationships where one person's going that way and the other person doesn't appear to. It might be that they don't appear to, and they're not going to go that way because you're meant to leave and actually go on your spiritual journey, and they've served their purpose with you in that contract.
Yeah.
Soul contract. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a beautiful process. And you can do that with anyone actually in your life, the cutting the ties, where the love will stay, the love connection will always stay. Isn't that true also?
Always. There's never so what we're doing is we're cutting the ties of everything that is no longer serving. So all the love and all the positives are just not even an issue. It's all the things that are not. So
yeah. So my next question, I was inspired to have some fun with you. So the next question is, who would you be if you were to be your own partner?
Sorry, say that again.
Who would you be if you were your own partner?
Oh, well,
you don't have to answer if you don't want to.
No, I do. I just need to get it. I need to understand it.
Yeah.
So if I was a man, because obviously I like men, so would I be?
If you were to be your own partner,
you're describing what?
Who would you be, or how would you be? Yeah.
So if I was my divine complement, so if I was like my divine partner, wow, this is a really good thing to put out to the universe, isn't it? I would know who I am. I would be very confident. I would be a great speaker. I would be intelligent. I would be taller than me. I'm 5'8", so I would be at least 6 foot. I would look after myself emotionally, mentally, and physically. This is all the things that I am actually, apart from the taller than me. I would be family orientated. I would love travel. I would be happy for my partner to be completely off the planet, even if I didn't understand it. I would celebrate their wins and help them if they felt down. I would support them in every way. I would be a good friend to them, and I would be an amazing role model for their children.
Wow.
That's good, isn't it? Thank
Yeah,
you.
that's good. I hope the gorgeous men out there have been listening carefully right now.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and then we are moving towards
That was
the
so
end
cool.
now.
That was
I
cool.
only have a
That's
few
cool.
questions left now.
Yeah.
But you are born at one of the most pivotal times of the 20th century, a few months after the moon landing and the Woodstock Festival, the two collective peak experiences under the great conjunction of Pluto, Uranus, and Jupiter in 1969. And Uranus and Jupiter are part of your stellium in Libra, an aspect with the potential of liberating, innovative, successful growth, if not leaps and sudden breakthroughs or aha moments in consciousness.
Wow.
And right now, the transit, Jupiter and Uranus, they're approaching a conjunction in the sign of Taurus, which will be in your 6th house. And the aspect will be operated for about 14 months. And it moved into alignment in the mid-23, in June, actually, 2023. And they will separate again in July 24. And Jupiter has been transiting your Saturn since June 23, and it's moving back and forth. And right now it's on your Saturn again with 1 degree of exactitude. So I would like to ask if you have experienced any exceptional expansion, perhaps in your ability to manifest, because it's a Saturn, it's the planet Saturn, since last summer, or other forms of uplifting growth with regard to Saturn in your chart. Perhaps
Yeah, I
unexpected
definitely,
insights about the body or healing of the
yeah,
body or something.
I mean,
Yeah.
definitely my own. So I became vegetarian almost exactly a year ago.
Okay.
I Yeah, I mean, I'm really conscious of the body anyway, being a naturopath, but I literally had to, it would just was not right for me. Meat just was not right for me, and fish. I just woke up one morning. It was steadily changing anyway, but that was one thing. I had a personal trainer. I've had a personal trainer now for just over a year. So those two coincided really beautifully. Um, what else? Manifesting, I've always been pretty good at that. But I would say that, yeah, do you know what? I feel that, I don't know if it's been a year or longer, but I definitely feel at peace with who I am. I think I definitely feel that sense of at peace with who I am. And I definitely feel that I'm living 100% my mission. I obviously it evolves and changes all the time, but I don't feel any sense of I need to be anywhere else. I don't feel like I've got things happening and exciting, a program coming out, the body, soul, universe, and light, helping people heal their bodies and stuff. I've got that coming out. That's interesting. That's coming out in April. So that makes sense with, that kind of 6th house, kind of looking at that and of service. But I would say that the key thing about this is I've probably had a struggle all of my life about my perceptions of my body. And now I feel completely at peace with my vehicle that carries my soul. I think that's taken my life, I would say. Yeah, to feel that.
Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah,
now
because
I feel
you have the aspect in your birth chart with Jupiter, Uranus, and it's many great scientists actually have this aspect.
oh,
Um, uh, People
yeah,
like Einstein and people who have really made great discoveries for humanity.
yeah.
And I would like to mention a book called Cosmos and Psyche. It's about archetypal astrology, and it's written by a cultural historian called Richard Tarnas. And in the book, there is a whole section about the Jupiter-Uranus conjunctions throughout the history, and it goes back way back to the Renaissance and the French Revolution and the 1960s, because it was such a pivotal time, this 1969, and it was actually operated all the way until October. So you are born in this sort of peak experience of the humanity.
Yeah.
And
I think
it's
definitely from healing, the science of healing, I feel like I see people heal really quickly now. And I've definitely look at, you know, especially with the sound healing and with the galactic transmissions that come through from the Syrians, from the Galactic Federation, and so on. I feel like that goes straight into, so I'm kind of guided to say here, goes straight into the soul as a remembering and a releasing anything that we would kind of consciously think about. So I think if there's anything about the Saturn aspect you're talking about, I would say that the transmissions came through from the Syrians. Yeah, that's what's coming to me actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
And do you have a vision for humanity as a whole right now in this very exceptional time?
Oh, I've always got my vision for humanity. Yeah, I would say the key thing for me is, which is in my soul mission membership as well, is to see that, hold the space that every single soul remembers, every single human remembers their soul having a human experience, and that it is not about giving your power away to anyone else, and allowing people to make choices for you. You were always meant to listen to your inner GPS, and that is key. And once you remember who you are, once you remember you have your guides and angels, then the next pillar we talked about earlier, the pillars, you know, the next pillar is that you live why you're here, which then in turn opens the door to abundance and freedom. And that to me, those three major, and talking about it on this astrological day, we were saying, weren't we, that the what was it that was conjunct my ascendant?
Jupiter is on your Saturn, and
Yeah.
and Ceres is on your ascendant, the great mother goddess actually. It's on your ascendant.
I haven't spoken about the pillars of abundance. I just was channeled that the other day. So, you know, but the way they show it to me is that you remember who you are, you remember that you're not on your own, and you remember why you're here. And those three major things open the door to abundance, because that's our birthright. Okay. So I would say that that is my vision for humanity. 100%. You know me, Eva. I love to travel. I take my laptop with me if I need to do anything and I'm abroad. But I live a very free life. And if I can help other people understand that work is not work when you live your mission. Yeah. And it's not always about money. Money kind of just happens when you live your mission. It's not about that. It's about living the frequency of your abundant life, which is living your truth and your authentic mission.
Yeah, that's really transforming, I believe, because when you do what you love, the money will come to you.
Always.
It's not the other way around.
Teenagers. That's what I teach them. Yeah. I remind them. They already know, of course, but I remind them in their human form, do what you love. Because do what you love and you're always going to be okay. You know, the education system is transforming, it's changing. You know, the old model of sit at a desk, you know, regurgitate somebody else's perceptions about things to pass an exam, that's transforming. You know, obviously, you know, mine are home ed for quite a lot of their education life. And they're still in the system a little bit, but they remember what they're here for. And I think that that's key as well for all of us, is that these kids coming in are our next generation. And if they can remember why they're here, they're going to help everybody else. So that's another vision for humanity.
Wow, thank you. That's so beautiful. So where can people find you, Susan, if they want to contact you?
Sure, absolutely. Well, my YouTube channel is my name, Susan Kennard. My website is my name, Susan Kennard. You can get me. If you just put my name in Google, you can find all of my different social medias and so on. And on my website, there is a page, the Galactic Healing Chambers. There's a soul coaching private program you can do with me. I just take 5 people every 6 months. So I work with you individually for 6 months. You can step into the Soul's Mission membership, which Eva's part of, and really step into your mission, which is what Eva's doing. And I'm really excited to be here on her show, on her podcast, which is amazing, her YouTube channel. And so yeah, you can find me anywhere, and I'd love to connect with you. And my book, of course, you can find on Amazon, and we've got this is going out, isn't it, on video, Eva, is that right?
Yes.
This is going on video. I'll just show, this is the cover of my book, Awaken the Light Within Your Heart. I actually also recorded it in my voice, so it's on Audible on Amazon, so you can hear me talking through the processes. This is my journal of insight, which is where you work with your guides. So it's something where it's encoded channeled from the guides, so that when you sit down and you open your heart to work with your guides, it's already encoded for you to do that. That might be a really fun thing for people to do.
Yeah.
I'm soon going to be creating my own oracle deck. So that's a
Wow.
new thing I got the other day. Yeah.
We look forward to that. And we will also put your website under the video on YouTube.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. That's fantastic.
So, Susan, do you have any final thoughts, or maybe your guides?
I'm going to ask them. Hold on.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask them. Why not? Mother Mary. Okay, Mother Mary's here. So it's Mother Mary who is here, and she's basically saying thank you, dear souls, for bringing this information together. She would like to say, at the moment of your birth, at the moment that you chose to come into this world, to this experiment, to this experience, this experiment, she's saying, of being human. She's saying it was meant to be fun. It was meant to be joyous. You were meant to remember that life was about happiness and joy, and to experience emotion through your heart, and to release anything in an instant that no longer served you. You do not need to hold on to pain. You do not need to hold on to suffering. It is your experience here on this beautiful earth plane, this snapshot of your life, for you to understand and know that it is for you to experience joy. And then the guardians here, the galactic guardians, are just saying, they just want to chip in here. They're just saying, remember that we are always with you. Remember that you never walk this path on your own. And remember that when you ask, we hear you. And it is always given. And so it
is. Thank you so much. Wow, so healing.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Susan. It has been wonderful to talk to you. And thank you for all the healing and wisdom you have given us. And
thank you for having me. It was so insightful and just amazing to hear your take on astrology, which has just really taught me a lot. So thank you so much.
Thank you. And to the viewers, thank you for your presence. If you have enjoyed this conversation, you are welcome to like and subscribe to the channel, and help us spread the word about archetypal astrology, healing, and whatever we talk about here. Thank you so much, everybody.